So moving on quickly, uh, Dr. Murthy talked a lot about me, so I won't say anything. He covered this slide completely, so I'll move on in the interest of time. But I'm based out of New York area, and if somebody is local here, happy to chat, meet in person for a coffee or whatnot. Saying that, this is what I have said for next 40 odd minutes and then open up for question answer if necessary. But we'll talk about the back to the future, the current state of AI. Should we care? We all should we care. What is the future ahead of us, and potentially a Q&A. And just a hint, I do have a demo planned. This being recorded, maybe people can understand what the demo is, and then we'll take away something out of that entire recording. But back to the future. I mean, we all know this image, so I don't need to mention about who this person is or what this car is. But this is kind of a scenario we are living in. We are in the world where AI and generative AI is changing every day. We think something is in future, but suddenly in a week we see this coming in our way without even we thinking. Like, for example, OpenAI has been running through what, 10 days of event or 12 days of event and in last few days. And they launched few things which we thought gonna be coming in future. And we see the Sora being launched, we see the agentic workflow being launched for developers in last couple of days. At the same time, there are other players, including my company, Cerebra System. We are sort of working in a future in a way, if you think from it, and I'll talk about some of this in upcoming slides. But what does it mean? It's impacting our life as a professional, as an individual, whether you're a coder, whether you're a project manager, whether you're a non-technical person, doesn't matter where you are, where you belong, it is going to impact you. It's going to impact our work, how we do, and it's coming from all the angle. It's not just one company or one person doing it. It's the holistic entire world is behind this, and I'm making or trying to make this happen, that we all as a human are more productive because of this new technologies. But I'll say, without saying it doesn't matter how much progress we make in AI, without having that human oversight, there is no future. So we need to have that human oversight regardless of where we are heading from a future of AI point of view. Saying that, the current state of AI, before we jump into the future, let's talk about where we are right now, right? So what happened in last, let's say, 3-ish month? I'm not going to into a 1-year-old. I mean, OpenAI launched ChatGPT 2 years ago, and then that changed the world, the iPhone moment, as many of us call it. But here, when we are looking at the future of, or so the current state of AI, the Strawberry. Those who are not familiar with Strawberry, it's OpenAI's model O1. It's the one of the best reasoning model from an AI model point of view out there. And it can think like human. But what do we mean by like human? Those who are familiar with an author, Daniel Kahneman, he created, or he wrote this book, like Thinking Fast and Slow. Similarly, we as a human, we think fast as well as we think slow. When we think fast, we straight away give the answer from our subconscious mind. Whatever comes in our subconscious mind, we give away the answer. But when we are forced to think slow, that is what author says, that we think from a conscious mind, we think about it. Maybe we spend a minute and then we come up with an answer. And quite likely, if we are thinking from a conscious mind, we take a minute to give an answer, that answer would be much better than whatever is coming straight out of our mind. So thinking fast versus thinking slow. Same happens in AI. When you are operating with, let's say, GPT-4o, which is the default model nowadays in ChatGPT, that is thinking fast. You get the answer in a snap, right away, right there. What about if we force the model to think and we ask it to do a better job? It will do a better job because we give it time, a minute, or we force it to think. Similar to our human brain, the model will come up with a better answer. That's what Strawberry is when we are looking at Strawberry. The second thing happened in about maybe 6 weeks ago, something around that line, is another major AI company, those who are not familiar with, Anthropic. They have a model equivalent of what ChatGPT is, called Claude. And as a part of that Claude model, what they launched is something called computer use. What does it mean? That means those who come from the RPA side of the house, maybe in the RPA, people used to do a lot of automation with your local desktop, with your local laptop. this is like a next stage where AI model will take over your computer. It will of course act as your instruction. Human is always oversight required, but as a part of that, it will take instructions from you. So let's say we just had a Black Friday event in US last week, right? So let's say somebody wants to buy something from Amazon, and to do that, they need to go to Amazon.com, search for a product, see through the product, click buy option, buy, check the shipping details, and then complete the transaction. Now, that is what typically we as a human do. But what if we ask computer to do that? Now, that is what Anthropic's Claude model with a computer use functionality, they are fixing it, they are solving it. And then it's in preview. I'm hoping in 3 to 6 months, we will see that where this agent or this computer or this AI is taking control on behalf of us and navigating to wherever we want it to navigate and do the activity what we want it to do, right? So buying from Amazon is just one, but imagine in a professional world where you may need to do certain things without even you lifting a finger in a way, right? So that's where we are heading. The other thing from those who are technology side of the house, there are a few things. One is ChatGPT or Claude. These are sort of a quote unquote closed source model. That means as a developer, as an engineer, you don't have access to those models. It's proprietary. It's owned by those companies. But thanks to Meta, thanks to Mistral, these companies are creating open source models. And in last 3 to 6 months, there are models came out from these companies, Mistral, Meta, and others, which is comparable to some of the closed source model when we are looking at the overall AI ecosystem. What does it mean? That means we as a community, we would be not only able to use this model, we would be able to customize to the domain we want, whether it's in healthcare, finance, or any other domain you prefer to customize for your own benefit. And last but not least, this is very important because otherwise my marketing team would not allow me to be here, is the fastest inference in the world. What does it mean? When we type on ChatGPT, let's say you ask a question, you get an answer somewhere around, you get a response of 100 words per second or 2 second or 5 second, whatever the amount of data you receive in your chat. That's about 100 to 200 words, depends on how fast or slow things are moving. But it's somewhere around 100 to 200 words per second. What if we make it faster? Like not faster like of a 5x faster or a 10x faster. I'm talking about 20x faster. And that's where Cerebra system comes in picture. And then we'll talk about briefly of what it is, how it works, and then whatnot, right? So saying that, this is what Cerebra's wafer scale engine is. I mean, again, this is not a hardware talk and this is not a Cerebra's talk. Just want to make sure. But this is the biggest chip in the planet Earth. When we are looking at overall chip economy or chip design, typically people operate at a wafer. I mean, you start with a silicon wafer. And what you see on the screen on the left is the biggest wafer you can design from for a chip point of view. And this is what Cerebras builds. And what you see on the right side is, again, not naming the names here from a company point of view, but a traditional GPU. A GPU is kind of a post-it size chip versus Cerebras wafer scale engine is almost like a dinner plate, if you see the comparison overall. What does it allow us to do? Because of the sheer power, because of the sheer core, the compute, it allows us to do so many things. But one of the problem we solved was around inference. What does it mean? What you see on the that green line or green border is where most of the model operates at, or most of the services get operated at from an overall speed point of view. So I was talking about 100 to 200 words per second. I mean, token is a fancy way of saying in our data science world, but think of it as a number of words. We broke this barrier probably back in the month of August, late August, early September is when we launched this. And it's 2000 tokens per second, 2000 words per second. If you think from a layman point of view, that's 20x, 10x to 20x faster, depends on how we are looking at it. Now, again, I have much more respect for AWS. I mean, I worked for AWS before joining Cerebras. But Amazon has Bedrock, which is what I helped launch that product. But when we are looking at Amazon Bedrock, the speed is somewhere in the range of the 30, 31 tokens per second versus 2000 tokens per second. That's almost like 70x faster than what you can get on Amazon. Again, why I'm talking about all of this is because the future is actually going in that direction, right? I'm sure somebody else will come up with a better technology. Like Grok started off in the early part of this year, where they said, okay, we do a 250 tokens per second. That was amazing at that time. But when we are looking at 250 from Grok over to 2000 plus from Cerebras, that's kind of a mind-boggling from just sheer technology point of view, right? Cool. So the question you all may have is, should you care? Should we care? Right? Now, I looked up what IBM, and again, nobody got fired by buying IBM in the old days. So I still trust IBM in a way. But when IBM is saying something that what next 10 year would look like from an AI point of view, people pay attention, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they are one of the blue chip company and they are forging ahead. These are some of the highlights what you see, what they call about the future of AI in next 10 years up until 2034 is what they have projected. Sort of multimodal is going to be a status quo regardless. Democratization of AI. So when we are talking about democratization of AI, it's not just one company or one model is going to rule. It's like a combination of open source model, closed source model, and many more things are gonna at play when we are looking at overall state. Hallucination it's a common theme when we are looking at AI overall. That is going to improve as well. I can go on and on for many of those things, but one thing I like is the last one, the agentic AI. And again, it may be they are thinking of a 10-year. I think that's agentic AI is kind of a next year, a next 18 month to 24 month is where the future is when we are looking at overall AI process point of view. So you may say, Ritesh, yeah, tell me the future about AI. I mean, I all history is fine, current state is fine, but give me some glimpse into the future. So let me start with this. And then again, since we are talking about the future of work, and I could have gone in multiple role, like software engineer, QA engineer, but I think project management overall, everyone would understand. And project management is something we all do, regardless of our job, what we are doing. So I thought, okay, let me bring in the project management as a sort of way of my explanation of what that future might look like. So assuming that you know project management, and then if you don't know, that's fine as well. But primarily, when we are looking at the project management current state, if you are doing project management today, if you are a Scrum Master, program manager, project manager, doesn't matter. Quite likely you are falling into this kind of a bucket where you're doing a planning, you are doing some sort of a project execution, you have a strategic oversight, you are going through the financial, the resource management, the portfolio management, and many more things as a part of your overall flow. So these are some of the activities or a high level breakdown of your project program or whatnot, right? I mean, these are major. I mean, there could be additional we can add here, like change management again, and then a few others. But for simplicity, for brevity, I'm keeping it as this area. But when we are looking at the future of that project management is agentic. And what do I mean by agentic? Is particularly that diagram what we saw, this diagram would sort of turn into something like this. Now you may say, Ritesh, my earlier project management was very simple. I like that diagram. This is way complex. I don't like it. And as a project manager, I agree that you may not like what I presented here. But this diagram is just one glimpse of what that future looks like. What do I mean by that? Let's look at that agentic option. But before we jump into the agentic, many of you may have questioned that actually, Ritesh, what is agent? Right. So when we are looking at from a layman point of view, it's just a software. Think of as a software which you are using it, aligning with your LLM, aligning with your real world, because quite likely your LLM has a static knowledge, because these models are being trained for weeks to months. I mean, if I mean, even today I'm involved in model training. Many models are being trained for months and months before we even actually release to the customer. That means the data what these models have are not recent, not relevant as of today. That means when we are implementing in the real life, we need to have a recent data of last week what happened, or 3 months ago what happened before the model was trained. So in this scenario, we are embedding something additional agentic flow, where agent is a software. It's doing four key things. The very first thing, it has a perception module. What does it mean? It's some sort of a sensory activity. So it senses things. It has a processing unit. So that means it's processing that data, whatever it's sensing it. Then it is storing that information into its own memory, its own brain. And finally, it's taking action based on the action we as a human are defining, right? So here, at the end of the day, it's a software bundled with few things combined all together. So I'll show you an example what it means for a one particular flow. But before that, this is a layman way of saying, okay, this is what agent is. Now, when we look at the project management function, right, what actually means agent for that function, what that future looks like. So as a part of project management, you need to do a project initiation, you need to do a project planning. Now, what if you have an agent, one agent, that is doing your project charter generation? What does it mean? You do need to, as a part of project planning, you need to create a project charter. You as a, or me as a project manager, I'm writing that charter. Maybe you are asking ChatGPT to write that charter. That's fine as well. But you get a template. But what you get, what the template what you get is probably age old, maybe a 3 month, 6 month old, depends on how your ChatGPT or the whatever model you are using is knowledge up to. Also, it doesn't have a knowledge of your internal project, past project, what you may have executed in a company. So what it's doing, it's analyzing historical project of your own company. Then it's taking some of the data from an organization point of view that you are a company XYZ, you are operating this. So your project charter must have been customizable to your company based on your current and historical data. And also you want to focus on the market trend that, yep, market is flowing in this direction. If you are creating a project for, let's say, building a new microphone, because I see a microphone in front of me, that you may want to see what is that current market trend looks like. Well, everyone is creating a noise cancellation microphone. Why don't you go create a noise cancellation microphone? And you want to embed into your project charter, because that's where the market is heading. But you are forcing you have a software or agent, in this case, the agent name, let's call it project charter generator. And it's using all of this historical as well as the information what we offer, what we present, and then generating that project charter on our behalf. Now that's just project charter. What about the requirements? Maybe you can ask AI model to generate the requirement, but it would not know what your stakeholder wants, right? So you may want to bring your stakeholder interviews. You want to bring your internal documents, because LLM would never know those internal documents. You may want to bring in the feedback from other people, and then you want to generate and validate those requirements. What about going beyond the requirements? What about the planning? You need to plan this project. Maybe you want to plan for next 12 months. And as a part of that PI planning, you want to create PIs per quarter. And to do that, you need to have an initial project plan, the WBS creation, as well as the timeline creation. And you want to go based on your past project, right? Because you don't want to take a template what any LLM is creating for you. You want to see what happened in the history. Maybe you planned for a quarter and it went away 2 quarters for a particular PI. Then you want to incorporate that kind of feedback that, okay, why it happened. And you have that all that record, right? As a project manager, you are doing that project closer, you are doing the feedback loop and then whatnot. So you have all that information. That agent is taking all that information and then creating the planning assistant for you. And then you get a better, much improved way of result from overall flow point of view. Risk. Without the project risk identification, you cannot go forward. So risk could come in many flavor, not only the industry risk, but also your past risk. Like we had a failure last time. ChatGPT doesn't know what failure was. So we need to incorporate that, and that agent is going to incorporate for us and identify potential risk and suggest the mitigation strategy. But where I'm heading all of this with is just for project initiation and planning. We are only looking at this 4 agents, right? It's again hypothetical. You can have even 16 agents if you prefer for each of these further breakdown activities. But the point is, we are further narrowing it down and then using our internal data, using our historical knowledge, using our existing human brain and the feedback, applying it to the agent and asking agent to do the job on our behalf. Now that was on the planning side. What about the execution? We go with two more agents, like status tracking agent as well as the resource optimization agent. What about the communication and collaboration side? Well, every project managers, if I remember my PMP days, the very first thing they teach us in the PMBOK guide was go and make sure you have enough notes taken as a part of your project meeting. I'm talking about 15 years. I mean, my PMP is no longer active. I'm no longer PMI member, but that was the first thing project manager was supposed to do is take notes, bare minimum. There are many things, but take notes in the meeting. Now, in today's world, even in Zoom here, we can have an agent which is taking a recording of our conversation, what I'm speaking here, and eventually further sharing that summary that, okay, during that 90-minute, these are the few points discussed, and these are the summary, and then these are the action items, right? That's actually an agent in a play from a communication point of view. So we are talking about that kind of similar agents here. But much more advanced, much more sophisticated, because quite likely if we are relying on one thing that is going to make mistakes, and then here we are relying on multiple things so that we get more accuracy, more finer result, and more better result so that we can adopt AI and adapt to the AI of how AI is behaving. So saying that, how this all things work, I mean, these are only 10 things I have highlighted here, but there could be 20 things as a part of the project management flow, but everything works in a harmony, right? Things are going in the motion. One thing is leading to the next, to the next, to the next, and so forth. And we see things moving in a harmony as a part of the overall project flow. So you may say, yeah, but what? That so what, right? I mean, we are in this AI world. What is going to help me as a project manager? Now, these are some of the real numbers. Yes, on the left, what you see here is before. What you see in the right in the blue is more of after. But estimated time saving in the real world is 15 to 20 hours per week per project manager. So if you are a project manager and if you are almost like saving half of your time, what else you can do? Maybe go fishing, maybe go beach, or maybe think strategically, right? Because what as doesn't matter what role you are in, quite likely there are so many mundane things we as a human are doing, which we should not be doing. Let system do it, like taking notes. Thankfully, now we have those recorder services, which is taking the notes for on our behalf and doing things. How about we expand to not just taking notes, but also doing the full-blown program management, project management, automation using this. Now, this is just one way of doing it. Now, there are some numbers certain bodies have come up with in terms of what actual would it look like? What is the actual benefit from doing this? Like you are looking at the admin task reduction of 40 to 50% is what we saw from the earlier side. But also we are looking at the resource utilization improvement, like 30 to 40% improvement. Also, the meeting cost is going by 25 to 35%. Also, we are reducing risk faster by 70%. Now, you may say, Ritesh, this number may not make sense. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's fine. It's okay to be skeptical. Let me give you an example. Let's say in a project meeting, if you are a Scrum Master and you are doing a daily stand-up, which happens in most of the projects, and suddenly somebody saying, okay, I'm sick today. I'm not going to be working. Yeah, I mean, we have provisions for sick days. What if two people comes and say, okay, I'm sick as well, and probably next day or two, I would not be able to do the work. Imagine now in this scenario, you are a Scrum Master. You just heard in the stand-up that two people are off the bench. You don't know really. I mean, you may know that what work they are doing, that's fine. It's not about that. But what is the downstream impact? And what is the potential upstream impact? So maybe by having these two people gone away for a day or two, you don't know who is going to take over that work. What is that impact? And you need to work with the project sponsor to identify what is the risk of two people not available for 2 days and the overall sprint plan point of view. Maybe you plan for a t-shirt size of a medium and suddenly you are falling into the t-shirt size of a small. So what is that project change would have an upstream impact? You may have planned for launch end of the month because it's December, end of the year, and whatnot. suddenly you are falling into first or second week of July. Now, what if you have an agent? Sorry, I'm going in the agent way here again. But what if you have an agent which is able to identify that risk? That okay, we have one person absent. It has a 20% chances of we will not be meeting our requirement what we had planned for. Oh, we have 2% going on a sick leave for 2 days. High likelihood we will have a 30% impact on its overall plan. And again, I'm not talking about doing that in a 24-hour or 48-hour window. I'm talking about doing that in few minutes, analyzing that few minutes and giving you the answer right away. So you as a Scrum Master, you as a project manager, you straight away go to your project sponsor and say, hey, we planned for this, but this is the impact. And you are telling them that day itself, right? You are not telling them 24-hour after or 48-hour after. So typically, the project sponsor would like bad news fast than the good news. So if you give them the bad news sooner, they will plan for that sooner, and then maybe they will bring other people into the project because the priority is important for this project compared to the other project, and then so forth. Right? You as a Scrum Master, probably you may not have that leeway, but the project sponsor may have that leeway, and they will be able to make that call for us. So suddenly, by having that decision sooner or information sooner available, we as a company, we as the overall profession, we would be able to do it better job, faster job, and hopefully will improvise the overall flow of what we want to do. So here is a demo I have planned. Again, I'll go through quickly here, but what do I have here? Now, I've been a hiring manager for almost like a couple of decades now, and I create job description every now and then, maybe sometimes once a month, sometimes once a quarter, depends on what kind of roles we are hiring. But as a profession, as a manager, as a leader, always you do this. What if we embed some sort of an agentic flow into creating this job description? Now, you can ask ChatGPT or Claude, for that matter, to create a job description. Nothing wrong with that. And it will do it for you. I mean, depends on how good the model is, how latest information they have, and then whatnot. Nothing wrong with that. But what if we want to polish that job description? What if we want to hire somebody who see the job description and straight away applies it, right? So what I have here is an agentic flow for creating a job description. What do I mean by that? I have 3 agents. These 3 agents are doing its own unique job. The very first agent is doing a research. So let's say I'm searching for a software engineer. And I don't know, I mean, I haven't hired a software engineer, maybe let's say for last 6 months. So I don't know what kind of people are in the market, what kind of jobs are being published in the market, and then whatnot, right? So this agent will do research for me in terms of go and Google it. I mean, I'm just using the term loosely here, but it will search the internet and give me the current information about that job, what that job description look like. And then I have a writer agent, like any publishing house, like any newspaper, you have a writer, so that publisher can take that input. So here, that writer agent is taking all that information came from the research agent, writing the job description for me based on the input what I'm giving it. And we have an editor agent, like in a newspaper, right? You have a writer and you have an editor. Editor is finally editing that copy, making it better, smoothen it out, fix the typos or whatnot, right? And finally, I have a final copy of that job description created for me. Now, if you ask that, Ritesh, what happens behind the scene, right? So let me give you a little glimpse of what happens behind the scene. The very first one, the research agent, I have, again, a piece of software. That software is all it's doing is doing Google search, right? What do I mean by that? It's a search agent where it's crawling the internet for that particular information, bringing me the data of that raw information. Then I have a writer agent. That is nothing but, again, piece of software connecting with an LLM. Now that LLM could be a chat GPT, could be Llama of your own Llama within your own environment, or it could be any other LLM you can think of, which is doing sort of a reasonably good job in terms of text processing. And then you have an editor, which is also a similar LLM behind the scene, but I'm using that software and I'm treating that LLM that, okay, you are the editor. sort of I'm pushing in a role that you are an editor and you make sure that you fine tune this text in the way I prefer it. So sort of a not a sophisticated prompt engineering, those who comes from the prompt engineering side of the house. It's probably a bit advanced prompt engineering plus aligning the role plus aligning the software to meet your requirements. So kind of a few things bundled together. And finally, I have a copy created for me to support that functionality. So let me exit from this deck for a second. And what I have here is, again, it's a Streamlit base app I have created. I mean, I'll show you what I have happening behind the scene as well. I'll show you. But let's say I want to create for Cerebra System, right? So I'll say company's name is Cerebra System. That's where I work for. Company domain is my artificial intelligence is where we work on. Software engineer is what we want to hire. I'll say software engineer, and my dental medical benefits, medical, dental, 401k or whatnot, right? Standard. And I'm creating a job posting, and now the system is running behind the scene. Now, again, it's a simple app I've created using Python and Streamlit, but let me see if I can show you something behind the scenes. So what you see here is, I'm running this in EC2 AWS, those who are familiar with it. So this is the console EC2 here, and then based on that, it's going to generate that output on my behalf. It's still running. It will run for a few seconds or whatnot. So while it's doing, what I want to show you is, let me go back to ChatGPT. Okay. Write a job description for software engineer. Hiring for Cerebras systems. Now, I'm assuming you all are familiar with ChatGPT, so I don't need to explain that what it is and how it is. And this is GPT-4o model, as you can see from the screen. Let's wait for it second to it come back. Okay. So here is about us, Cerebras. We are revolutionizing future, dari. Software engineer, you will develop and optimize, build, optimize, collaborate, innovate, contribute to framework, qualification, bachelor's, master, PhD, experience. Very cool. I mean, I'm not saying that this is bad. Could I use it as is? Maybe. 50-50 chances. If I have a better version, probably I'll take that as well. So behind the scene, I'm going now. Here is this agent is reviewing and editing, and it's still doing reviewing and editing. Hopefully, let me go back to my, boom, here we got it. And since this is in a markdown format, let me zoom in a little bit for the old eyes like me.
Ritesh, how many more minutes do you need?
2 minutes. Would that be fine?
Okay. Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna create a gist for old eyes like me. Create a gist. Job d.md. Create a gist. Cool. So this is what I have. Join at Cerebras, pioneer in AI-driven technology. Now, if I go back to, sorry, ChatGPT, compared to this about Cerebras versus this about Cerebras is way better. The responsibilities are very polished. The requirements are very polished compared to what we saw in the ChatGPT, and also listing down all the benefits and then whatnot. Now, again, you have to take my word for it, or maybe you can do it as well on your own if you want to. The site is jd job description.aiguru.pro, right? So this is my own website. If you want to try it out for next few minutes, that's fine. Probably the site will be taken down by end of the day. But saying that, if I go back to my slides here, and that's my demo, we just saw the demo. So to recap, AI is not going away. It's not crypto, it's not Bitcoin. I mean, even though Bitcoin is $100K for now, but it's going to be an AI empowered human. We all will be in that stage where we are empowered by AI, whether we like it or not. Agents are the near-term future. When I say near-term, it's not future, a long-term. For next 18 to 24 months is where we will see many of the systems are going to get integrated with agents, like what we just saw about the job description being one of the agent. And we as a human we don't want to be doing a mundane task. We want to doing strategic work, and then this will allow us to take away time to do the actual strategic work, what we want to do as a human being. And with that, I thank you for your